Good afternoon, and thank you again for joining us for today's webinar, Residential Utility Rebates for Low-Income Housing Projects. Today's presenters are Zachary Ambrose, Andrew Dyack, and Chris Hurwitz. Zach Ambrose currently serves as the Program Manager for FirstEnergy's Pennsylvania Residential Energy Efficient New Homes Program. He has a strong background in program management, energy efficiency, sustainability, environmental health, and employee engagement. He has completed HERS Rater and Energy Star trainings and holds a bachelor's degree in sustainability from Arizona State University and a master's degree in environmental studies from Point Park University. Prior to joining PSD, he was a sustainability specialist for a local government in southwestern Pennsylvania, coordinating internal sustainability initiatives involving energy efficiency and employee engagement, and representing his office in a number of regional sustainability efforts. Andrew Dyack currently serves as PSD's Program Manager for PECO New Home Rebates and the PPL New Homes Program. He has years of experience in a wide range of housing and construction endeavors. Previously, he managed the legalization of major commercial building projects with William Vitico Associates, oversaw the operation and expansion of a multi-million-dollar commercial and residential real estate portfolio with JLM Investments, and managed boutique renovation projects with Chariot Properties. He holds degrees in English from Bard College and Temple University. Chris Hurwitz joined PSD in 2017 and currently serves as a Senior Program Manager for the PGW Energy Sense portfolio and for the UGI Save Smart Residential, Retrofit, and New Construction programs. Chris is responsible for oversight of all program operations, including quality assurance processes, staff management, program enhancement, operational and strategic process development, trade ally engagement, and cost-effectiveness savings calculations. He previously was a project manager at Smart Watt Energy, where he supervised all aspects of the PECO Small Business Direct Installation Program. He also has worked in various management roles in the solid waste and food industries. Chris has a project management professional certification from PMI. Chris holds a master's degree in community and regional planning from Temple University, as well as a bachelor's degree in anthropology and political science from SUNY Plattsburgh. Thank you all for joining us again, and I'm going to turn the presentation over to Zach.
So this is Andrew Dyack speaking. Thank you all for joining us. I just wanted to say thank you to the Housing Alliance for this opportunity. Again, PSD manages all of the residential new construction rebates that are available in the state. So no matter where your project is, if you're working on a residential rebate application for a new construction, you'll be working with us, and we appreciate the opportunity to get everyone together today to discuss what's available out there in the state. So we have 5 major objectives here. Kind of go over what the available utility programs are, and then I think a point that will be important to a lot of you on the phone, discuss how that integrates with your application for LIHTC credits, and discuss the Energy Rebate Analysis. Zach will have some slides on that. We'll go over some ways that you can maximize the rebate amounts that you get through utility programs, go over some successful projects that have come through these sorts of programs, and then spend a bunch of time answering whatever questions you have. We'll wait for questions at the end, but if you have something that you feel like we're not covering, please feel free to type something into the question box there, and we'll make sure that we're addressing your questions. So there are rebate programs available from every major electric utility in the state, as well as UGI Gas and PGW for residential new construction. The programs for the electric companies and UGI are very similar. So FirstEnergy, PPL, PECO, and UGI's residential new construction programs are all based around HERS rating. I think many of you may be familiar with what a HERS rater is. If your buildings are going for reduced HERS points on your LIHTC application, or if you're going for Energy Star or other sorts of advanced efficiency certifications on your building projects. There are slightly different eligibility requirements for each program, and we'll go over those in a bit once we go through each program. And then Chris will cover the ins and outs of PGW's offerings. I'm going to hand it over to Zach, who will walk us through what's currently available through the FirstEnergy utilities.
Thanks, Andrew. So for the FirstEnergy program, if you have projects serviced by MedEd, Penelec, Penn Power, or West Penn Power, you may be eligible for incentives through our program. Our program offers 2 incentive tiers for builders of low income or LIHTC new homes that exceed 2009 IECC. For Tier 1, builders of new low-income housing are eligible to receive 33 cents per kilowatt hour saved for homes that perform 15% better than the 2009 IECC. For Tier 2, eligible low-income housing that meets Energy Star version 3.0 certification qualifies to receive 38 cents per kilowatt hour saved. To qualify, buildings must also perform 15% better than the 2009 IECC for that tier as well. For the FirstEnergy Low-Income New Homes Program, eligible low-income housing must be affordable to residents earning no greater than 150% of the federal poverty income guidelines. If homes or units do not meet program low-income requirements, they can still come through the program. We have a low-income side as well as a market rate side. However, the market rate side is a slightly lower incentive, so it's 30 cents per kilowatt hour for 15% above code and 35 cents per kilowatt hour for 15% above code in Energy Star version 3.0. You can find a lot more information on the URL that's listed right there. You can also contact me directly, and I'm happy to answer any additional questions. The eligibility for our program, we accept multifamily projects, we accept townhomes, we accept single-family detached, attached. We also take manufactured homes, modular homes. So we take an array of building types for our program as well.
Great. Thanks, Zach.
Mm-hmm.
So you'll see that the PPL program has similar qualification guidelines. Again, 15% savings above 2009 IECC with a HERS rated and then a HERS rating plus Energy Star tier. There is no separate income qualified incentive amount in the PPL program. Everything goes through the market rate pathway. And then one thing I wanted to address quickly that some of you might be aware of is that code has changed in Pennsylvania. So you might be wondering, oh, we're using a code baseline. So what does that have to do? How does the code change impact that baseline? So these programs are part of the Greater Act 129 state legislation, and so the phase of Act 129 for these programs runs until the summer of 2021. And because of that, our baseline will stay the same through the end of 2021. So these programs will exist more or less as they're described to you here through the summer of 2021. I know that there's a lot of long lead times for these projects. So again, PPL's program is very similar, and you'll notice that all of the HERS-based programs here, so PPL, FirstEnergy Utilities, PECO, and UGI, all of them that are based off of HERS ratings, the incentives are paid per unit of energy saved, and that will be something that we'll come back to when we talk about maximizing utility rebates. Is these rebates are really tied to how much of that kind of energy you're saving. So the outlier here in program design from the electric standpoint is PECO's program. So the non-Energy Star tier is a little bit more stringent. You have to reach 30% savings over code. But the good news is from a qualification standpoint is that Energy Star certification on its own allows you to qualify. So you don't need to be 15%, you don't need to save 15% energy over the code baseline if you're doing Energy Star. And where that can become impactful, especially for LIHTC developers, is in multifamily projects. Again, interior studio units that are smaller in multifamily projects can have a hard time reaching that advanced savings over code tier, just because there's less there to save energy against. And so this really allows multifamily projects to be assured rebates as they're coming through the program. Do we have any questions right now about the RNC programs for the electric utilities? If anybody has a question, I'll give them a second to type something in. Okay. In that case, I will hand the mic over.
Andrew, I do see one question that came in.
Sure.
It says, does Energy Star include MFHR and MFNC?
So I think that question is referring to, does Energy Star, So Energy Star has just rolled out a new version of, it used to be Energy Star Homes and Energy Star Multifamily High Rise. So because these programs are based on HERS ratings, that is the main thing is, are you going to have a HERS rating? So Energy Star multifamily new construction is the kind of new pathway for Energy Star, which opens up a lot of different modeling strategies, including ASHRAE modeling and a prescriptive pathway. And right now these programs are dependent on that HERS rater and that HERS rating for how we are calculating savings, reporting savings, calculating your incentive, really measuring the efficiency of the buildings. So I think about it less determinant on what pathway you're choosing for Energy Star and more determinant on what kind of modeling strategy you're using. The new flexibility allows you to pick a bunch of different things, and it's really going to be about that HERS rating.
There was another question too. It says, I have 3 buildings that were recently certified. Do they qualify? They were Energy Star certified.
So I think you should email the program manager, and we can see what the ins and outs are of your projects. Again, I think we want to throw a wide net and provide incentives to everybody that's building energy efficient new construction out there. So I would say give us a call or send us an email, and we'll look into things. But if you're building in the phase, we should be able to try to help you get a rebate. Great. Chris?
All right, thank you, Andrew. So we're going to segue a little bit out of the electric utility mindset and into the gas utility mindset. So many of you may have heard of the UGI Save Smart New Homes program. This is a non-Act 129 voluntary program. The utility put this out with a first day of rollout of January 1st, 2018. So following up on the previous question, any residential new construction with a certificate of occupancy dated January 1st, 2018 through today, you could submit your homes for consideration in this program. I want to highlight some of the distinctions between the electric utility eligibility requirements and the gas utility eligibility requirements. One of the main ones is your space heat for your new home must be gas fueled. So they're not going to be incentivizing any electric fueled space heat. And along the same lines as the preceding programs we've talked about, a HERS rating is also required for eligibility. And here's another difference. The savings above code is 30%. So this program is really benefiting those who are stretching and helping everybody get to that higher code standard. As Andrew referenced, the code change has happened. So these are not low-income specific homes. Anything's eligible and not precluding low income either. So the Save Smart New Homes program offers incentives for qualifying Energy Star and Code Plus homes in 2 of UGI's territories, the UGI North Territory, which was formerly the Penn Natural Gas Territory, and the UGI South territory, which was formerly the UGI gas territory. The eligible homes include single-family detached, single-family attached, modular homes, and residential metered units in multifamily buildings that are 5 stories or less. There are 2 tiers here. As you can see on the slide, you're eligible to receive $20 per MMBTU saved for homes that are 30% above 2009 IECC code, and then you're eligible for 30% per MMBTU saved for eligible homes that meet the Energy Star version 3.0 certification and are also 30% above 2009 IECC. So I'm going to talk a little bit about the PGW programs now, and as Andrew alluded to earlier, these programs are designed a little bit differently. So there's a couple opportunities here for those of you building in the city of Philadelphia. The first and easiest to apply for are the prescriptive residential rebates. So if you're installing new heating equipment and it's a 94% or higher AFUE furnace or boiler, PGW has some very generous rebates, $500 for the first qualifying furnace in a building and $250 for each additional unit in that same building. Single-family, duplex properties, multifamily projects with 1 to 15 single-family units are eligible. Again, similar to the UGI program, the space heat must be single-fueled by natural gas. We have an online application system. You can go to pgwenergysense.com and submit a rebate. The things you would need to prepare for that submission would be the invoice showing the manufacturer and model number of the unit, an AHRI reference number or the certification, and the account number that the building is serviced by. If you have any questions about large projects with multiple units, we do have an opportunity for those of you who are submitting 20 or more, and we'll be able to work with you individually on that. And then next up, I'm going to talk a little bit about their residential grant program. So in addition to PGW's prescriptive rebates, they do offer construction grants for new energy-efficient residential construction. And again, single-family, duplex, and multifamily projects with 1 to 15 units are eligible. All new construction must have gas-fueled space heat. And the requirements here are we will review the plan of what you're putting into your new construction, and we will verify what percentage above 2009 IECC code that falls into. There are 3 different tiers. So if you're in the 15 to 20% above code tier, you would get $13 per MMBTU saved annually. 20 to 30%, $24. 30 to 30% and above would get $40. The residential construction grants are capped at $750 per individual home. The commercial and multifamily construction grants are capped at $60,000 per project as long as it's 15% above code. We provide technical assistance. If you have an energy model, we would work with that to verify your savings above code. If you have not created an energy model, we would be able to build one for you based on your building plans and equipment specifications. And we have a lot of big projects going into Philadelphia now. The program is funded through August 30th of 2021 with the expectation to continue beyond that. But if you have anything in the works that you think might be eligible, please reach out to me. We can talk about some of the next steps and expectations to move forward. And with that, I'll turn it back over to Andrew.
Zach, did you want to take this one?
Yeah, of course. So, after hearing all that, why participate in the programs? Well, aside from the incentives that we offer, there's many other benefits into working with us. Well, the first here isn't really a benefit, but in order to be eligible for PHFA tax credit awards, you must submit an energy rebate analysis with your application. I'm going to discuss that a lot further here in a couple minutes, so hang tight there. Aside from that, working with us and HERS raters, we provide consultation benefits regarding energy efficiency improvement and anything else we can pertaining to your project. So we're super helpful. Anything you guys ever want to ask, feel free to reach out. We're here to help. We offer marketing support through collateral and raising awareness about your project. So this can be very beneficial for stakeholder recognition, tenant satisfaction. If they know you're going above and beyond to make sure that you're building in the community and their homes are built superior to the average, that's just, that's such a plus. And so working with us, we provide a lot of collateral. We can help out however we can. So if you have any ideas as well, we're always willing to listen. And as we mentioned, we offer incentives on a per unit basis. So, those are some of the additional benefits in working with our programs outside of just the monetary ones. And you can go to the next slide, Andrew. Yeah.
Yeah, I just wanted to stop. I'm seeing now I was on the wrong tab, so I'm seeing some questions, and I just wanted to clarify some things before we move forward. So again, these programs that we're talking about today are for new construction projects. If you have existing projects that you're doing retrofit work on, we'd be happy to get you in touch with the right folks to discuss those projects with. And there are existing low-income pathways and rebates for replacing equipment and doing all that sort of stuff. I think Chris maybe would be a good contact also for existing PGW retrofit projects.
I see we have a question here. I think this must be referring to the PGW Energy Sense grant programs about do we charge extra to build an energy model? And that's a great question. I do want to clarify that PSD will build an energy model at no cost to you for eligible projects. So the first few steps of the grant application process will be to determine if your project is eligible and do a preliminary analysis to see if you have a good chance of falling into that correct savings tier. Once that's been established, we move forward to build that model so PGW can verify what incentive you may be eligible for, and we do not charge you for that. That's a technical assistance support provided by the program to help get these buildings constructed.
Great, thanks, Chris. All right, Zach, back to you. I think we are off to the races on the ERA discussion, which I'm sure there will be plenty of questions on.
Exactly. So let me know whenever those come in. So now that you know a little bit about the new homes programs offered across Pennsylvania, I'd like to shift here and really jump into the Energy Rebate Analysis and how it fits into the Pennsylvania Housing Finance Agency, or PHFA, application process. So beginning with the 2016 PHFA award cycle, a completed Energy Rebate Analysis, or ERA as we call it, is required with every PHFA multifamily housing application. Now, it's basically an itemized list of all energy rebates that may be available for the project. The rebate amounts included in the ERA are considered a source by the PHFA and used to size tax credit awards and must be included on the certification of subsidies of tab 20. Now, since you will not know the exact rebate amount your project qualifies for when you're submitting your PHFA application, you're only required to submit an estimated ERA. Then you'll have 2 additional opportunities to update your rebate amounts before they're fully accounted for by the PHFA. Here on the next slide, I actually have a good breakdown of what's required with each ERA throughout the project completion. So, as I mentioned, since your estimated ERA is really yours and our best guess on how your project will perform upon completion, it's necessary to keep the PHFA updated on rebates available and amounts as they may continue to change throughout the build process. Therefore, the PHFA requires an additional updated ERA and a final ERA by cost certification. So I'm going to jump into each one of these for you just to talk a little bit about what's required when each of these are submitted. As I mentioned, the estimated ERA is submitted with the PHFA application. So this will include an itemized list of eligible utility company, local, regional, state, or federal rebate programs, including preliminary rebate estimates, which can be provided by the associated program and your HERS rater. The updated ERA is submitted prior to closing and includes an update to itemized rebate amounts based off any possible changes in building design or available incentives. If no changes have been made to design or available rebates have remained the same, the preliminary rebate amounts should be used. Now, the final one is here where everything is actually being utilized. So the final ERA is submitted at cost certification, which will need to include a final itemized list of all rebates received and the additional documentation that I'm going to note below. Now, one thing to not stress on is this is all included in the ERA form. So you have a list of all this documentation that they're looking for. So the first is a list of eligible utility company, local, regional, state, or federal rebate programs. You've already completed this twice now, so this should really just be updated in case there's a change from your estimated or updated ERA. A second would be a complete list of applicable rebates with final amounts or tax credit amounts. So at this point, your final rebate amounts should have been calculated and ready for you to list as a final. Third would be your calculations, energy models, or other technical data to support recommendations. Now, in working with our programs and our HERS rater, you will have used these energy models to calculate your incentives. So when your HERS rater is submitting the project to us, they're actually submitting the energy models to us as well. And so that's how we're calculating your savings. So you're already going to have these at your fingertips as well if you need to submit them with your ERA. The fourth that they ask for in this final ERA is any letters or program data information or any other documentation from utility providers to support the noted programs. And if renewable energy strategies are proposed, they would also like a cost-benefit analysis. So really the takeaway that I want you to take with this is, in general, so you don't worry about your rebate estimates as they start to change as you get into the build process. There's plenty of opportunity to make adjustments to your ERA before everything's due at cost certification. And we're here to help along that process as well as your HERS rater. My emphasis is just not to worry if your estimated ERA is different than your final. Everything's not going to be taken into consideration until your final ERA is due. But they just like to know that you're starting out at the very beginning, looking at working with our programs, and realizing that these rebates are going to be coming through. So yeah, there you go. So now the last thing that I really wanted to talk about briefly pertains to the estimated ERA and calculating your estimated rebates. I want to emphasize here that you should work with your HERS rater and the program implementer, which would be me, Andrew, Chris, of the utility programs you're listing. So as you see here on the screen, we have a general idea of what the average savings are for a project, given what type of building it is and whether it's electrically heated or gas heated. This is obviously just a good estimation, but at this point of your application, that's all the PHFA is really looking for. Since the PHFA credits aren't awarded until cost certification after the project's completed and all final costs are submitted to PHFA, if the rebate amounts vary from what was predicted at the beginning, this will all be corrected when you submit the final ERA. So, if you have a townhouse and it's electrically heated, we would guesstimate about $1,000 per unit. If you have a low-rise apartment, those are smaller, so typically we would estimate about a $600 per unit incentive for electrically heated. If it's gas heated, that would cut it a little bit down to $350. So this is a helpful table that we utilize in working on the estimated ERA with your HERS rater. And like I said, we're here should you have any questions or have any other specific needs in working on your estimated ERA. So, should the raters have any questions, they should also work with us for assistance. Another thing to know is that, the costs associated with the pursuit of energy rebates are not basis eligible and will be removed from the basis on a tax credit development. That's kind of a rundown of what the ERA is, when it's due, according to your build process. and how to calculate the estimated ERA. Andrew, do we have any questions yet?
Yes, so we have two that I am going to answer.
Okay.
Do we contact you guys or our utility rep? I think probably the answer is either. You should probably, we are more than happy to be contacted by anybody who's working on low-income housing projects, and if we're not the right contact for you, we will work with our utility partners to get you to the right place. The other question is, how will these low-income programs benefit the tenant? Will tenants receive any incentives? No, right? So the way that these programs work and the way that they look to integrate with the PHFA is to support advanced energy efficiency in low-income housing in the state of Pennsylvania. So trying to get utility dollars into the market as much as possible to support the energy efficiency of these projects. As someone who looks at efficient new construction in the state of Pennsylvania all day, every day, these are the most efficient projects in this state, and are the most impactful sorts of projects we work on. I mean, there will be one or two passive houses that are built in the state that are maybe as a housing unit more efficient, but in terms of large-scale efficiency impacts, this is really the most impactful stuff that's getting built in the state, which means that the tenants are being provided with really high-quality housing that has low ongoing maintenance costs, right? So if you think about affordability, not just as a rent amount, but also as the kind of implicit costs, not only from the utility side, but also in ongoing maintenance. I think one of the ancillary benefits of an efficient house is to our mind, it's a better house. It's going to be less likely to deteriorate over time. There's less infiltration of water, et cetera, et cetera. So, it's really about making sure that tenants have places to live that are cheap to maintain and are built well. So that's our hope in terms of how the utility dollars benefit low-income tenants. So I just wanted to talk briefly about maximizing rebates through utility programs, and this is really going to be directed towards the electric programs and the UGI gas program. Again, another way that you could say this is maximizing savings. All of those programs tie their rebate amounts to the energy that's saved by the home. So electric utility and UGI savings and rebates are calculated against the 2009 IECC and federal efficiency minimum baseline, so where the code doesn't, for equipment, for example, where the code does not necessarily stipulate something, we use federal minimums. Using HERS rating software, and some of this advice will also go towards your HERS score, right? So if you're going for an advanced HERS score, HERS is looking at a 2006 baseline, but some of this stuff will still apply. So I'll just run through some bullets here. I think most of you are already doing this, but LED lighting, always use LED lighting everywhere you can. Our incentives are still really good for LED lighting. There's some ISA stuff that will affect how we can incent LED lighting in the last year of basically 2020 to 2021, but the costs have come down precipitously for LED lighting, and every extra dollar you spend on LED lighting, you will get back in utility incentives. We will cover the incremental costs.
And another great advantage of LED lighting is you're going to significantly lower your O&M costs. As you know, really helps for longevity and cost efficiency. Another great advantage in the PGW Energy Sense program for large multifamily buildings is if you have gas-fueled domestic hot water to install low-flow faucets and aerators. They're a small, low-cost device that has a huge savings impact. So not only does that maximize your rebate, but reduces overall utility costs down the road.
Thanks, Chris. Another thing that's probably preaching to the choir with this audience, but build tight, ventilate right? We've been thinking a lot about insulation in the efficiency industry for a long time, and I think one of the things that we're learning together over the past couple of years is that infiltration is really a big deal. And that's really about just making sure that your contractor and your subs are really working with your architects and other people on your team to make sure that they have good assembly details and all sorts of stuff like that, and that there's good oversight so that they can really tighten your envelope. It tends to be a very cost-effective way to reduce the overall energy usage of a building. Again, a lot of this savings is about baseline. So heat pump water heaters, for example, are a very, very good opportunity for a savings calculation to give you a little boost. So the least efficient federal minimum electric water heating equipment is particularly inefficient. So putting some very efficient electric water heating equipment in there gives you a boost in terms of what kind of incentive you're going to get from that end use for the electric programs. They're also, right now, the kind of most efficient equipment you can put in from a lifetime cost perspective. And the incentives are very good. We're looking at about a 50% buy down of the equipment cost when you think about the added incentive from the electric programs. And then another thing here, and this is really about how you work with your HERS rater, but make sure you claim everything you can in your HERS model. So if you're going to install efficient appliances, make sure your HERS rater is able to verify the installation of those appliances and get them into the HERS model. Make sure you're claiming LED exterior lighting if you have it, and make sure if there's HERS raters on the call today, they'll know that there's domestic hot water efficiencies that are in the model too, and making sure that all of the I's are dotted and the T's are crossed, especially for the work that you're already doing, is an important thing. Don't lose out on savings that you're already building for. So unless there's any other questions now, we'll talk briefly about some successful example projects, and then we'll open up to questions at the end. So really brief, but there was a project through the PPL program called Heritage Point, 26 multifamily units. And I think the thing to look here is what are the advanced energy features, and it's going to be pretty similar. $23,000 in incentives, it's a pretty good per unit incentive. 65,000 kilowatt hours saved on a yearly basis, a very low average HERS score of 48. And again, things that I think people with some experience will see as typical in these sorts of developments: ground source heat pumps, heat pump water heaters, 100% high efficacy lighting, and a super tight envelope. So a lot of the things that we talked about in the previous slide were in this building and led to it, really leading the way in 2018 in terms of per unit efficiencies and low HERS scores in the PPL program.
And as Andrew mentioned, this is going to mirror those maximizing incentive amounts as well. But for FirstEnergy, Homes at Riverside came through in 2017. It was 47 townhomes in Reading, PA, and their total incentive amount for the project was $63,400. They were saving annually, so about 247,000 kilowatt hours. Their average HERS score was about a 59, which is also pretty low. And they utilized advanced efficiency features of ground source heat pumps, 100% high efficacy lighting, super tight envelope. So all of those things that Andrew just mentioned. So another really good project that came through the program.
There was one question that came in about clarifying, does this project have geothermal energy?
Yep. It did.
Yep, Colleen, did you hear that? That one did have geothermal.
Great, yes. Thank you.
I did not change. We were waiting for your questions with bated breath, but I didn't change to the slide that prompts you to ask us questions. So, now we're available for questions. So any questions you have, we would love to hear them. And
Great. If you have any questions, please feel free to unmute your phone line by pressing *7 to ask your question over the phone, or you can also still type them into the chat box feature in the bottom left-hand corner of your screen. So again, to unmute your line, it will be *7. One question did come in. Are there any examples of rehabilitation energy rebates?
Sure. So I think, all of our contact information is here, and if you're interested in retrofit opportunities, just email the respective program manager who works in the utility territories that you're working in, and we'll get you information on that.
Yep. And I will say that the PGW Energy Sense program does have a retrofit for existing buildings. It's a grant program, so if you have a building in Philadelphia you're interested in talking about, please reach out to me and we can talk about eligibility specifics.
Great, thank you. We do have here we go. In your experience, how big of a role does geothermal have in the process regarding savings and low-income housing tax credits?
So, I can dig up some kind of more specific information if you want to send me an email. Geothermal is really great, and it provides a lot of energy savings. I can give you an exact, I want to think about how it works with the modeling and what kind of savings it would produce in a HERS rating, and that's not kind of information that I can give you off of the top of my head, but more than happy to start an email exchange to get you some more information on how geothermal works and from a savings perspective in these programs. Great,
thank you. We do have a couple more minutes for questions, so if you'd like to ask your question over the phone, you can press *7 to unmute your phone line or enter them into the chat box in the bottom left-hand corner. As I mentioned in the beginning of the webinar, we are recording today's webinar, and we'll send the slides as well as the recording out at the end of this week.
Okay, well, please don't hesitate to contact us. Our contact information's up there. Always happy to talk to you about individual project questions. Greatly appreciate this opportunity to share this information with you today. Thank you all very much for your time, and look forward to interacting with some of you down the road.
Thank you, and I want to thank everybody again for joining us, and I want to thank our presenters as well for providing us with such great information, and I hope everybody enjoys the rest of their Wednesday.
Thank you.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you. Goodbye, everyone.